Welcome to Overwatch, and welcome to another super special PTR video. Now, I'm sure you're all super curious about the new map, but there's been a couple of patch changes alongside it, so let's take a moment to talk about those first and foremost. And also, I wanted to sort of dedicate a good 10 minutes just to exploring the map on my own. And I want to talk about these changes outside of doing that. And the reason why I'm not just floating around the map and stuff like that is because, well, my computer just crashed due to a memory leak, so I'm a little bit cautious at the moment, so shall we say. Maybe it's fixed, maybe it's not, maybe it was something else doing it, I don't know, but I don't want to take the risk at the moment. So let's talk about what's changed. Well, what has changed is that McCree has had a little buff, and Reaper and Roadhog have had a couple of changes as well. Some pretty big ones on Reaper and Roadhog. We're going to spend most of the time talking about those, but let's talk about McCree. So, McCree has now had a Deadeye buff. Deadeye, of course, was always a relatively minor part of his kit, but could come up big every now and then. Right now, it's been changed so that targets now begin locking on after 0.2 seconds instead of 0.8. So basically this animation here where he starts locking on, now it does it a little bit faster. Also, during this first second, it's basically gone from 20 damage being locked on after the first second of, you press Q, 1 second later, you deal 20 damage. Now, you press Q, 1 second later, you're going to deal 80 damage. And you might be thinking, oh, well, it's still going to be difficult to maybe get the 2 seconds or stuff like that where you need the full charge. It's still going to be tricky. But what this means is it's much more likely where you're going to have instances where you can just press the Q button and get a couple of, little bits and pieces of damage here and there across the entire enemy team, rather than just standing out there in the open hoping that people do stupid shit. Basically, you're going to be able to do a lot more stuff where, let's just weaken some of these guys and give you a ping, and then there should be another one spawning in over here maybe. There. And where this will really help is if you are fighting like a dive comp. You can see like how quickly it locks on now. So if someone is injured, if you land a shot and then quickly go into Deadeye, let's try that, then you'll be able to take them out extremely quickly. So it gives McGruff a good tool for sort of taking out low hit point targets that might be evasive or might have evasion tools, where before he didn't really have that option. Using Deadeye to finish off a Tracer was, insanity before. Now, it feels like an actual option. So that guy's on, well, 20 hit points, and now almost instantaneous. You still got to leave it for about a second probably just to get it working properly, but hey, it's not too bad. Small quality of life change for McCree. The real changes come to Reaper and to Roadhog. So what is Reaper's change, you might be asking? Well, Reaper's passive, if I press F1, does it show it? Oh, ow. I want to take some damage, I don't want to take all of it. So it doesn't show it yet. But basically, the way it used to work is that things you kill would drop souls. Now you can see I've taken, a good 70, well, yeah, about 70 damage. And now I've healed. And that isn't just from being, close proximity, oh, he's picking up the souls instantaneously. No, Reaper's new passive is that 20% of the damage he deals, he now heals up. What this means is that you no longer need to kill things to get your sustain. So if I let these guys just, like, plug me for a little bit, ow, 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 pop, 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 pop. It means that if I'm... Fuck. One more time without picking up the health pack. What this means is that as I'm running in, if I'm taking damage, as you so often are, I will start healing. And as you can see from long distance, it's rather marginal and not that effective, but with certain situations, it means that Reaper will be that much harder. It means once Reaper is in a fight, he is going to be very sticky. He's going to be very hard to remove. You won't be able to just blow him up that easily because he's going to be doing these huge 80, 100 damage shots, and that's 20 hit points every single time he clicks his shotguns. That's actually pretty huge, and it's going to make it very difficult to remove him if he's got a Lucio healing him and stuff like that also on top of it. What is also worth mentioning is that Death Blossom does about 250 damage per second, which means that he now heals for about 50 damage per second per target he's hitting. So Death Blossom will actually heal him up extremely quickly, and it means that if you are on low hit points, for example, while playing Reaper, and you press the Death Blossom button, after 1 second, if you are hitting all 6 targets, you would have healed, well, 300 hit points. That's more hit points than you have if you didn't know that, for some weird reason. So if you just look at our hit point pool, it's going to tick up relatively quickly. Okay, maybe I'm overestimating. I'm not sure. It's still relatively quick. It's going to make him more durable. It does also mean that it's a little less overpowered when he kills like one person and then another person and another person, because once one person goes down in a Death Blossom, you're usually pretty strong at that point. You're usually feeling pretty fine. Last, but by no means least, Roadhog. You might be super observant and might already notice the change in the bottom right corner where he has 5 shots. If I hold down left mouse button, it's pretty immediate when you notice a change of like how much faster he's firing. That's 1/3 faster speed. I'm also keeping an eye on my Overwatch memory, and it is zooming up constantly, so it does make me think that maybe there is a memory leak on the PTR at the moment. What this also means is that, well, hooks are now less reliably one-shotting people, and that means that, you know, these practice bots are very easy to one-shot usually. Like, I think you can still do it if you just land at dead center, but they are relatively easy targets to do it with because they're pretty big, they're pretty chunky, and they have a huge head hitbox. But on targets like Mercy, for example, Widowmaker, Ana especially, who was difficult to one-shot already, if not impossible, Lucio, for example, Tracer even maybe. These smaller heroes are going to be that much stronger. Divas as well, Jesus. But once they're released from the hook, it's way easier to just spam out a bunch of shots and get the kill on them. This means that at mid-range, the hook is no longer so much of a death sentence that it used to be and was more of a general purpose tool. It also means that your right clicks are now a lot more effective. Like, it's just way easier just to try and machine gun shots into people. This is definitely a new feel for Roadhog, and this is basically, you know, we had Hook 2.0, this is Roadhog 2.0. Whether we'll see a big change or not in the meta, I sincerely doubt it. I think that Reaper might be a little bit stronger as a result. Roadhog's definitely weaker as a result, but Roadhog was already sort of getting overlooked instead for, you know, aggro dive, and he's still going to be relatively effective at blowing away tanks. His barrier DPS hasn't changed, so he's still good in the places where he was good before. He's just a little bit less good at the things that he shouldn't have perhaps been quite as good as throughout. Reaper, on the other hand, I don't think this solves his core issue. Reaper's core issue, of course, being that it's very hard for him to close the distance, very hard for him to get into the enemy team and do a lot of damage. So doesn't really fix that issue because 20% healing of Reaper's pathetic mid-range is just nothing. It's just, you know, this is literally like 1 damage a shot. It's not even really worth thinking about. So if I just take a little bit of damage and it's barely ticking me up, you know, that survivability is not going to really come into effect. Once he is in a fight though, he's going to be really, really strong. So going to be interesting to see how they handle Reaper. I don't think this is the change he perhaps needed, but I've been wrong before on these sorts of things. It's going to be, like I said, interesting to see how it works. Okay, let me restart Overwatch, because now it's using up 9.5k memory, which is not good. And I'll see you guys in a second on the Lunar Hangar. Okay, welcome to the Lunar Colony. This is the Defender spawn, I do believe. And that's my Discord going off in the background, for pity's sake. As we explore around, this is actually where the second point is, so you see this big red square, this is where the second point actually is, and this is the final point you'll be defending. One thing I did notice when I was sort of doing my first exploration, then crashed, which feels bad, man. I'm sure they'll get that fixed really quickly. The spawn distance isn't too bad, and it's kind of nice that it's blind as you're coming out of spawn as well, and then you sort of have to go through this area. But it's still relatively close, so one of the big problems, of course, with 2 control point is this is still relatively easy a distance to cross for heroes like Diva, for heroes like Genji, Tracer, for example. It's not too hard to get on the point. That said, once you are on the point, the cover is pretty much non-existent. It's literally like this square here. So it's very difficult to stay on there for a prolonged period, and the attackers at least have some high ground areas that they can sort of shoot in from. I'm actually curious as to what's over here. So it looks like there's 3 pathways to get onto the point. It's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. There's not much point in speculating based on what you see on the PTR. That sort of was a trap that people fell into with Oasis and Iconvolt. It's very hard to tell how it actually plays from just, you know, indicative games on the PTR. That said, if you do notice issues, wow, there's a voice there. If you do notice issues on the PTR, absolutely give that feedback to Blizzard, but other than that, like, just be careful about any rampant speculation. This, of course, is where the first point is, this sort of monkey playground. It's unfortunate that Winston doesn't get a special option to climb on the walls, but hey, game balance, I guess, comes first. How boring. And how fitting. But the big thing is that it's actually, you know, relatively blind. You have sort of this open area here that you can stand on the point, but, you know, you can't get onto that very easily without having a movement ability, so normal heroes have to sort of come in through these side entrances over here. And over here, you also have this high ground up here, but there's no easy way in up and over as well. You do have a little bit of a sight line up here, but not too much else. So you can imagine get like Soldier 76 over here, for example, and shooting onto the point could be pretty cool. You also have a good angle if you take over here. Let's talk about over here, because yeah, giant steps are what you take, jumping on the moon. This, of course, is a cliff. Let me show this. So you will die, yeah, if you jump off the edge of that. That is just a cliff. Why they can breathe in space, Jeff said it best himself. Who knows? Magic, who cares? It's a video game. Let's not get caught up too much on the minor details. Okay, let's truck our way back through this map. Whoop. You know, this sort of environment reminds me a lot of Team Fortress 2. I guess it's because of this high ground area, and I think that's given me big TF2 flashbacks. Although with this pathway up here, you could easily contest it at the very least, but a lot of the two control points, you know, 2 control point maps on TF2, it felt like had these sort of high ground areas where you could get set up. Looks like you could actually sneak a Bastion up here, maybe if you have a May. This could be a good sniper perch as well. Whoop. 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 I am playing Winston for thematic reasons, of course. This is where Winston grew up. I'm sure the map is full of Easter eggs, like there's just tons and tons of stuff dotted around. There's also all sorts of tidbits and stuff like that. I recommend if you want to get that info, a good friend of the channel is Hammy, and Hammy does videos specifically about that sort of stuff. He's very good at it, so I recommend going and checking that out. Okay, I can't actually go in there, so I'm going to swap sides. Swap to red team. There we go. So one of the cool things is you can actually go into this and you can look. You can see, ooh, there's stuff here. The stuff you can look in the telescope with. Isn't that cool? That's sort of the Easter egg everyone I think knows about at the moment. I wonder. Oh wow! You can break the telescope. Oh wow! I wonder if you stood on the front of it, would it affect what you see? Is it broken now? No. Okay. I'll just be curious to see if you get like a freaking super microscope effect if you just jump on the front of it. And there's all sorts of little bits and bobs here, and all the cameras, all stuff like that have been paused during the outbreak, clearly. Like, it's system shock flashbacks, but what's interesting is, like, there's all the different species, so you got, like, a monkey, and then there's, like, the gibbon over here, and the silverback, which I think that might be Winston, or it might be something similar to Winston, who knows. But there's also all sorts of little tidbits all over the place with, like, chat logs and stuff I think I've spotted here and there. And the grisly implication on this map is that the scientists got sucked out the airlock, which I find quite grim, but still pretty cool. It's nice to get like all these little tidbits, like here, can someone please check the noise in the break room? It's past bedtime. It was Simon and Hypatia causing trouble. I tell you, Simon has been an absolute handful lately. I mean, more than usual. I'm confining him to his room, and we can figure out what to do with him in the morning. So there's lots and lots of these little logs dotted about that you can read. Again, Hammy will probably be going absolutely ham on these, so to speak. But yeah, I like it. I like the design of it. I mean, 2 control point. It feels like it needs tweaking still. It feels like it needs 1 or 2 tweaks to make it really work. I'm still concerned about, the second point and the spawn distances. Just getting long overtime stalls, again, it's still an issue. Even though it's better than it used to be, it's still not perfect, right? And that, to me, is a bit of a problem. I'd like to see that fixed. Anyway, thank you guys for watching to the end. Let me know what you think of this map, if you've had a chance to play on it, or if you just like the cool lore tidbits. It's also worth mentioning that low gravity is only sort of outside, but they have included that now as an option. So hey, you get to play around with that. But yeah, big thing, new map, Reaper buff, big Reaper change, big Roadhog change. Gonna be interesting to see how these play out. Thanks for watching to the end. I've been Josh's one voice amongst many. Toodles.